Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee, Books, and Rain. I'm Rachel, and I'm wearing my The Last Bookstore book t-shirt. This is a really popular, kind of probably slightly famous bookshop in LA. It is in downtown LA, but it is so cool, and they've got like this really cool book tunnel. If you ever get to go, I think it's worth the visit. But we are here with water instead of coffee at the moment because it's about 6 p.m. and probably doesn't need coffee at that late. Plus, my decaf is actually at work, or I probably would have made some. And we're diving into a book called The Graveyard Club: The Death of Diamond Slim by K.M. Harrell. I picked this book up because I like YA fantasy and I love kind of the mysterious and the spooky. It always gives me a really enjoyable read. So, let us dive into the summary and we're going to go from there. The Graveyard Club, a tale of magic, danger, and the power of friendship. In the dark world of 19th century New Orleans, Bessa Melponte is the 14-year-old daughter of Pierre Melponte. And it might be Melpont, but I think it's Melponte. I think they're kind of deriving some of it on kind of Creole slash French. And I'm a little rusty with that when it comes to the pronunciation, but let's continue. The only necromancer in the city, but while her father is a renowned and feared figure, he keeps Bessa at a distance, refusing to expose his only child to the dangers of his craft. That is, until one fateful night when he agrees to take her to an enchanted ceremony. But their evening takes a perilous turn when the angry Bishop Delacroix interrupts the ceremony and steals Pierre's enchanted book. In the chaos that ensues, the bishop is nearly killed by the book's powerful Tafly, I'm not sure that pronunciation, entity, and Pierre is arrested for the attack. Alone and heartbroken, Bessa decides to take up her father's legacy and continue his work. Along with her 3 friends, they begin to open tombs and try to raise the dead. But soon, they realize they are in over their heads as dark and dangerous entities begin to target them. As if that wasn't enough, the angry bishop and his followers, known as the Shadows, seek revenge against Bessa and her friends. When one of their own is kidnapped, Bessa and the rest of the Graveyard Club make a plan to save their friend and stop the bishop's ultimate revenge. It does say this is for fans of magic, mystery, and the strength of friendship. Comes this thrilling tale that will keep you on the edge of your seat. If you enjoyed Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo or Lockwood and Co. by Jonathan Stroud, you'll love The Graveyard Club. So there we go. One of the genres that is listed, and actually it's the only genre that's listed, is fantasy, but I would probably put this into a YA category as well. Some, maybe... I wish there was a little bit more adventure. That's probably one thing I do wish for. Definitely put this under the category of like magic, supernatural, and what else could we put this under? Because I don't want to put this under necromancy. I don't want to put it under crime because it's not a crime novel either. Well, maybe we'll just leave it under YA, fantasy, magic, and supernatural. I think those are probably really good categories. So, let us dive into the Kindle edition is about 370 pages and is expected publication of April 26th of 2025. So, here just before too long. As of this recording, I think that's 3 days, 4 days away, something like that. But I do hope to post this maybe a day or two before, just to kind of give my thoughts a little bit. And plus, I don't try to spoil these books. Hopefully, it also gives people the incentive to go out and seek them out. I did see that K.M. Harrell is from Louisiana. I do believe Alexandria, Louisiana, and makes a lot of sense from the perspective of myself because I too was born and raised in Louisiana. I was born in southern Louisiana in Baton Rouge, grew up in north central Louisiana, and so Alexandria is actually right in the middle of both of those. Between the north and south, you can either go over to Jackson and down, or you can come straight through Alexandria and there you go. So anyway, very familiar place, but I enjoyed this book for a couple of different reasons, and then there are a couple of critiques that I'll also provide as well. It does say in the dark world of 19th century Newald, and I really feel like, and I even wrote this on my Goodreads review, that this feels like an alternate timeline version of New Orleans, which I'm totally here for. I love the mystery and intrigue that New Orleans provides, and so putting it into a city or a world or a town of Newald gives you still that same sense because there is, I think, voodoo and hoodoo are very prominent in the New Orleans region. There is a lot of like magic mystery sort of thing that also encompasses that area. And it's really, really fascinating. If you ever go down there, I also suggest just kind of peeking at some of the graveyards because they are so cool looking and in my personal thoughts and opinions. Most of New Orleans graveyards are above ground. Like you're not buried in the ground. You are put in something on top of the ground. And so they're very, very cool to just look at because they are different in that respect. So walking into this world felt familiar for me because some of the things that were referenced, especially kind of this necromancer in the city, did not feel out of place for kind of an alt-world New Orleans. And the naming, the Creole, the Cajun, talking about people with the name like Delacroix and stuff like that was also very familiar as well. So I loved diving into that. And then also kind of imagining, and it's just kind of a little bit different as well. And again, I visited New Orleans a lot when I lived and kind of grew up there. And it is a fascinating city. Now, for all of its kind of negatives, it does have a lot of positives in my personal thought. Don't go to New Orleans in July, August, maybe even September, because my personal thought, it's kind of hot toilet weather at that particular time. It's hot and it's humid and everything is sticky, and in my personal thoughts it kind of smells, but that's again me. Going back to the book though, I loved that it takes that sort of the enchantment of New Orleans and puts it into this book, gives it this magical appeal. There is a city, or there is a school for the magist, at least I pronounced it either magist or magist because it seems like a magical school that some of the kids can go to if they seem to have proclivities towards magic in their blood. And that's where Bessa meets her two best friends, Dickie and Margarita. Or Marguerite. I think it's Marguerite. And she meets them at school, so they are like this trio. They're very sassy to each other. They love giving each other heck. They're about 14 years old, so of course that's kind of an age where I guess they're kind of coming of age a little bit, but they're still naive on things as well. Well, Bessa goes with her father Pierre to one of his ceremonies, and this has been the beginning, so this is not a spoiler in my personal thoughts, but the ceremony is for Pierre to temporarily bring back the soul of a dead ship captain in order for him to tell the family where he has kind of put the family money. And when Pierre arrives at this house in order to help this family, a bishop is there from the church. Well, the bishop is very angry about the fact that they have called in this dark magic person. Although Pierre presents incredibly pleasantly, and I really like him as a character, and Bessa as a character as well, for being kind of, I guess, following in his footsteps of being a necromancer. They do it in a what feels like very respectful manner. Well, the bishop sees the power that Pierre has, and snatches the book away from him because he feels like, oh, you shouldn't have this. The church should have this. This powerful relic should belong to the church. Well, when he does that, the entity that more or less lives within this book, the Taflai, and again, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, as I've not heard this word to my thoughts, I guess, spoken before, but the entity attacks the bishop for stealing the book away, for more or less being a thief, and the bishop then is maimed in the process. Well, Pierre is blamed for it because, of course, this entity couldn't have done it. This entity is a magical being and magic's not real, blah, 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 blah. So Pierre is put in prison for technically a crime he didn't do. Well, the bishop is now very, very power hungry. It seems as though he was already on the verge of being power hungry, but now he is chomping at the bit to have this book and the power that resides in it to be able to pull back the souls of the dead, even for temporary periods of time, and he wants it. So he is starting to become, in my personal thoughts, very corrupt. Well, as the ceremony was concluding, Pierre gave the book to Bessa and told her to leave, told her to flee while no one was paying attention. So she gets out and she goes home and brings the book back to her family estate. Well, then the bishop, he tries to sue her, and that doesn't go well. And then the bishop does a lot of other things that, in my personal thoughts, don't really go well. A lot of it backfires on him, but he is more or less the biggest baddie of this particular book. So my couple of questions with regard to this book is, why is it called The Death of Diamond Slim? Because the part that I ran across that was really about Diamond Slim was fairly small, in my personal thoughts, was not a big portion of this book. It felt as though we could have called it something different, or I don't know. That's just my way of thinking. But as I was looking up this author and I typed in the Graveyard Club, it did pull up their other book that was called, let me just click it real quick, click their name. And KM Harrell is a him. I'm sorry. I just kind of glanced, and I think when I saw KM, I think in my head, I thought Kim, but that was incorrect. So he lives in Alexandria, Louisiana, and his other book that I was trying to get my computer to go to is Naira and the Invisible Boy. And it says that is Graveyard Book number 1. So, but in my personal thoughts, if they are part of a series of sorts, then I was not aware, because Goodreads does not say that it is like the Graveyard Club series of any kind. But when I typed in the Graveyard Club and then the last name Harrell, it did pull up Naira and the Invisible Boy. And so now I'm very intrigued to see if maybe we had another Graveyard Club at a different time, because I don't really feel like these two stories are dependent on each other or really connected in a lot of different ways. Again, these are my thinkings, but I had a good time with this book. I really did. Again, because I felt like it was familiar setting for me, even if it was a little different, which is totally fine. I love reinventing things that feel familiar. And I think the only thing that I probably would have really changed, other than kind of like I said, the Death of Diamond Slim not being the biggest part of the book that I kind of anticipated, was the fact that some of the parts of the book felt a little disjointed. I felt like we really weren't staying on track with the plot at some times or some points, and maybe we were just doing like slice of life from like the kids' perspectives and their bonding and friendship moments, but it felt at times that we had gotten a little off track of what was the point of the book. So those are probably a couple areas where my thoughts could help strengthen this book or a future book is maybe we don't wander off on these side tangents of saving a girl falling from a building or, sleepovers or something like that. I didn't know how those were really like, sure, we've made a new friend, we're bonding, and now maybe they're going to join the graveyard club. Who knows? It does add another layer of mystery because that individual also has a mystery of their own that kind of needs to be solved. And so just saying that that part, if we wanted to work with that, could have been a separate book that we could have expanded off of. We could have really focused on the Diamond Slim aspect in this one, maybe dug into it a little more. I do understand that the characters are mainly in their like mid-teens, so like 14-ish. Not really old enough to do a great deal on their own, but we've suspended belief for a lot less in other books. I think we could definitely suspend belief and have a Scooby-Doo gang situation going on in this one. But anyway, I do recommend it for kind of a YA genre. As long as you're aware, there is a little bit of necromancy and raising the dead. But anyway, I do want to thank you all so much for tuning in. If you have not liked and subscribed already, I certainly hope you will. And with all of that being said, I will see you all on the next page. I hope you have a great one. Bye.